All right. This is State of Mind, and if you like what you see, I'm sure you're going to love what you see on the other end. Just hit this little button and subscribe. It's right here. Look. That was supposed to be funny, but no one laughed. All right. All right. I have. I told Jason Thompson's here, and before we get into some talking, I told him that before it started that I felt like we were going to cry through this because him and I cry a lot together. But before we get into it, I want to say about Jason Thompson, he's a very underrated actor. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I mean, not only is he good looking, he's talented, all that bullshit, okay? Which is true. But he has gone, just to give you some perspective, he has gone from a big-time model to General Hospital, incredibly successful, and then he did Night Shift too. I don't know how successful he was there. I'm sure pretty big.
That wasn't my fault. That was Steve's.
All right, and then I'm just gonna kiss your ass just for a little bit, and you just take it in, and then we'll start. And then he goes to Young and the Restless, to a role that was huge, that I'm sure he had so many people doubting him, because I know how this business is, and he's made that hugely successful. He just won an Emmy. Not easy. If you look up how many actors have done that, not many. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Was that a good introduction for you? It was nice, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like. You're just kind of doing what you do.
Yeah.
And then, you're left with this wake of stuff that kind of happens,
Yeah.
As you keep going forward. But I appreciate that. Thank you. I've been able to watch a lot in my 16 years of being in daytime, and I've had some incredible people like you and Steve, of course, and Tony.
Not Steve, but
James.
Tony, yeah.
Well, Steve was pretty integral in me coming
Yeah,
over
he's
to
a
Y&R a little bit, too.
That's true.
We
That's
were able
true.
to talk and just understand, and because it's more, you get to a place and it becomes more than just a job. You know how much time you spend there with these people you care about. What's the work environment like?
Yeah.
How are people being treated from crew to the top? You know, it's you spend a lot of time there. But anyway, I appreciate it, man. It's fun.
You were Canadian, or you grew up in Canada.
Yeah, still am.
And I don't know about this Canadian or not thing, because I
North American?
Yeah, I don't know, but I just know that I get along with Dominic and you and people from Canada are cool. That's all I know, because I don't, I hear a lot of other stuff or whatever, or this or that, but I got along with all you guys, and I like you guys, so that's a cool thing. And then how was school for you?
Well, I mean,
Like when you were little, and
it wasn't easy. I didn't even graduate. I think I got like 99 credits. At the end, you needed 100. And,
Yes.
you got the diploma and stuff like that. But it wasn't easy for me. I was a 50% guy in a lot of subjects that was kind of just getting over, and then there was other subjects that I was really involved in and felt differently about. And one of them was drama class. I know that's not a regular kind of subject, but it was somewhere where I felt very comfortable and I excelled in that. Some aspects of language arts, some of the poetry stuff, that kind of like,
got into that?
I got into that kind of stuff. I had some great teachers that really helped me. And then I had some teachers that I didn't really see eye to eye with in a lot of ways. And it wasn't a great learning process for me in that kind of way. And, school was, I had a lot of friends. I had a great time. But as far as the education, I didn't have the maturity, I don't think. I didn't learn. It's not until later on in my life I realized how I learn best. And I didn't know that when I was younger.
It's funny. We're the same way. Although I pretty much I copied my way through high school. I'm dead
Well, that
serious.
was a decent part of mine
did
too.
too.
Yeah, I mean, there was times where I was in Canada. We would have these things called portables, where you would be outside the regular school because it was growing or whatever, and it's freezing cold out in the winter. So you would go outside the main school, put all your stuff back on, go to class in the portable. In the portable, you'd have a little boot room area where you hang your jackets on and put your boots away and everything. And there was a while that my desk was in the boot room, like away from the class. I had to kind of lean back and try and see the board to see what was going on, because I was kind of sequestered in a way sometimes, because I was probably blabbing away and
Yeah.
making a nuisance for everybody else. And, you know, times where I had those 6-foot blue walls around my desk where I was just like by myself, because I'm sure, I don't remember exactly the way I was, but I remember those situations. So I know that I did something to end up there, but it wasn't always easy.
I was just copying, and then one time I got busted, and he picked up the paper in front and said he's cheating, and then I got in trouble. And then I would cheat. This girl would sit in front of me, and I'd tell her to keep her elbow up as the test. And I'd just be like, you know, looking, and then one day.
So you had accomplices. You weren't just like...
Oh yeah, no, I had a whole thing going on.
you had a whole system.
I mean, one time I came into class with my shirt off and a boombox. This is no lie. It's in my book. I had a boombox playing like soul music, funk music, and the teacher's like, "Maurice, what are you doing?" I said, we all agreed. Nobody agreed that you learn more when you have music, and I was serious. So this girl would, and then one day, she kept it in, and I said, like this, and then I couldn't cheat, so then I got really bad grades that semester, right? But mine was a lot of I was fighting and getting in fights and stuff like that. But you know, it's funny because Paula, I don't know if they were joking with me at home, Paula and my kids, about they couldn't find my name in the graduation, and I tell everybody I barely graduated. And then Paula's like, "No, honey, you're not here. I don't think you graduated.
You're not even listed as being in there."
And so maybe I didn't graduate. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, I
you
mean,
became an actor. I became but education is very important. Don't get me wrong.
it's a funny thing now to have kids and to realize what, you know, I probably put my parents through in those times. I didn't make it easy on them in a lot of ways. There was a lot of instances where I was kind of searching and rebelling and you know, doing things that would make my heart drop right now.
Yeah.
I know that my kids are probably going to get into at some point, or there will be those moments. And there was many of those that I, you know, put my parents through, I think.
Did you go through any, because it doesn't seem like it, like any mental illness, depression? You were straight. What do you think about that as far as having kids and everything? How do you feel about mental health? I mean, this is state of mind. We don't have to talk about mental illness.
No,
but,
of course.
I know I've blabbed about it for a long time, but it's an important issue for me especially. How do you feel about all that? I mean, like with your kids?
Well, I think it's a very, very important issue. And, you know, I've always respected so much about what you do with it because I don't think it gets talked enough about. And I think there's a lot of people that are scared to kind of talk about it. I have personally never really had a struggle with mental illness in any kind of way. I've had my struggles, but it wasn't ever you know, any sort of diagnostic situation or anything like that. It was always just, you know, struggle going through things, but it was never, I didn't have any issues with mental health.
Wow.
And knock on wood, you know, whatever you might call it, but yeah, I've never had any of those struggles.
It's amazing to me. It's nice to have somebody on the other side that hasn't had. Most people that do this have something, right? Anybody who does not have mental illness should kiss the ground to not have to go through that ugliness and pain like you. I mean, you know, I guess some people take it for granted. I mean, I don't think you do, but some people take it for granted, and that's why when they see somebody who's mentally ill, they're like, "Oh, it's all right. You'll get over it." It's not that.
No. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, man, I can only try and understand what that would be like. You know, I can only try that. I can only try and be there for other people and friends and whoever else, and put myself out there if somebody is in that kind of situation, because I don't have that beast that I wrestle with.
yes.
And I
I got
just,
chills, bro.
yeah, I you know,
Damn.
and there's a far too many people that do, and I don't think that you can go through what the world, what Americans have gone through, what, you know, not just Americans, but my family in Canada, but you know what I mean by that, what we've been through this last year, and the levels of what people have been through, they're not equatable. They're all over the place,
Yes,
depending where
yes.
you are
Yes.
in any way. But you cannot, I don't believe that you can come through something like that and not be affected in some way.
Yes.
Anyone,
Yes.
mental health or not, that is a trauma that we have gone through.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people, including myself, you feel like, oh, cool, I kind of came out unscathed a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But I had you know, like you, I have a wife that is like, you know, just life-saving and
Yeah.
life-changing in so many ways. And so she kind of brought it up and we talked about it. And like, I think I'm just feeling really overwhelmed that like this last year is kind of just, I'm coming out of it. I feel like I've been like in survival mode to a certain extent. And we have a lot going on with the kids, and you always feel like you're getting pulled in certain situations.
Yeah.
But, you know, even for me that I don't battle the mental illness stuff, I definitely have felt out of whack. And I can get to a place where I don't do a good enough job of trying to balance myself in that kind of way. And for me, it's so much of it is trying to being an actor too, you try to understand the human psychosis, what it means to be human, what it means to feel, what it means to experience loss and all that kind of stuff. So I've always tried to put myself in the situation of having empathy for somebody else's world and place. You know, and sometimes you can take that kind of stuff on and it can hit you deep, but I've never personally wrestled with it.
Well, you're having a great conversation. I'm having a great conversation with somebody who's never, it doesn't have any mental illness. It's great that you can see it from your state of mind. You know, I feel like having gone through everything that I've gone through, it's obvious now that there was a reason, and you know, talking about it for over 30 years now, and I remember during the pandemic, and I was maybe the worst shape, and I was thinking of, you know, I can't, and my wife would always say, you know, 100 times you say you can't go on, and then 100 times you've gone on. One thing and I don't want to make it so dramatic, but one thing I said was, I can't do something drastic because then other people who are seeing me in a way of the mental illness guy is going, I'm letting them down. And that kept me another day, another thing. But the good thing is that we get through it.
You know, and what you're saying about, you know, the reason, it's like, you're lucky, I guess, to a certain way, if you can see that reason and you can attach yourself to it, and it gives you accountability to try and follow through with it. You know, and sometimes that picture isn't always clear. And sometimes it's a lot further away than you want it to be. And it goes back to that, like, you know, you got to be careful that you're not always looking for your arrival to a certain extent, because it's always a little bit inevitable. If you're always going to some sort of destination, And when you might find yourself or you think you're at that destination, it might not be at the arrival that you've expected.
That's right.
You know, and so there's that process
Yes.
of not getting caught in only trying to get. And on the daily day, I said to my wife, I'm like, I feel like I've been just trying to get to that next stage. Like, okay, let's just get through this day. Okay, let's get through that day. Okay. And that's a lot of what the pandemic was to a certain extent. And then you don't even give yourself a chance to look back and see what you've gone through to a certain extent. But it's like, I feel like you've got to try and, not you, but in general, I try and understand that in order to kind of stay in the moment with your kids and everything, you've got to understand that it is a journey and there's no final destination to it. Because I don't know what that is, and I don't want to see it to a certain extent.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is, and everybody says it, I'm starting to understand it now at 58. You know, Eckhart Tolle says it, everybody says it. It's truly, if you can stay in the moment, you're grand. Your life will be fantastic. If you can just stay in the moment. You know, it's the thoughts that, you know, I get up, when was it? 3 days ago, right when I started going off the medication. I get up in the morning and my thoughts start, woo, they want to take me in a car going 150 miles an hour down a winding road. And I'm like, okay, manageable.
So when the car is going 150 miles down the road, you get in and just go?
Yes.
And you can't stop it?
No.
And you're a passenger the whole entire way?
And you can't.
And so what happens when you're on it? You just let the car drive by and you can, or what? Like how?
Yeah, when you're on medication, then I try my hardest to take the thought and take it over here, distract myself, go work out, do whatever to get out of this bad thought. But there are levels to that with anxiety. You can be I never had to take medication for anxiety. I've gotten off 2 planes.
Yeah.
I'd never taken medication.
Yeah.
But the last one, it was like, no, there's no stopping. And people say, meditate. Dude, I was meditating.
So going back to what kind of Paula said about 100 times, do you think that is are you getting to a place in your age that you can understand it a little bit better? Are you more practiced? Do you have more tools in the box kind of thing? Or is it always different? Has it always been different? Are you able to manage it better now, you think?
I would hope. This is I'm reborn now, I hope. And I'm going to try to do everything right. I have been, to be honest with you, this is funny because like when you're interviewing me, it's the best. I love it. This is the best. I don't go to therapy as much as I should.
Right.
So I didn't get down to the nitty gritty of the depth of what's really wrong with me. This last anxiety really should not have happened that bad. If I had been doing things right, maybe that was God's way of saying, you're not doing it right, Maurice, and I'm going to have to give you some pain.
I'm going to take you to the edge to see
to the edge.
Yeah.
But my thing was, well, God, how about a month? Not 2, 3, 4.
Oh, he negotiates? I didn't know that.
So, I want to talk to you about this too. About what do you think about mental health? Because I brought this up, and a few people have been talking about it and whatnot. Mental health in school, why not?
Oh, no.
A class in there about mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's you know, when you look at the classroom, if you could understand that it's okay to feel the things that you feel. You know, you're not taught that. You have to learn that as you go, sometimes in a really hard way. Or maybe you have parents that understand it, that can help you through it. But you can't just rely on the averages. You know, I think that's something so valuable to understand that there are anxieties in life. There's loss. People go through things. There are abuses that can happen to you at 3 months old that you cannot honestly remember, but you will have trauma for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Like if you understand the physiology that happens to you and the biology and those early times as a child, that you have no control over your life, that will affect you for the rest of your life.
Right.
How do you not try and help those kids at that point understand the pressures of life? Some kids are homeless, don't have, they're on food stamps or whatever, or loss, or both parents. Like, there's a lot that can go on. Abuse.
But why do you think there isn't any?
I don't know. I mean, I think the whole education system, having kids now, you look at it and I think about what the struggles that I've gone through and what kind of education could have actually helped me in a way, or the options.
Right.
I don't feel like there were options at my point. Like, when I talk about my kids going to school and I'm like, man, I just want them to be outside and digging and learning to teamwork and building things and letting their mind expand right now. I don't need them sitting there and learning their ABCs. That'll come,
Right.
But
Right.
in my point, I have the privilege of thinking that way for my children.
Yes.
Not everybody has that. You don't have the options, or you don't have the finances to even think about that. And the
Yes.
public school system could definitely use some help. And I think that's a very valuable class that we can learn. Or we can learn how to handle ourselves a little bit better.
I had a friend in high school. He had a nervous breakdown.
Well,
Okay, and every time he'd come around, we'd run. And it's amazing what I've done with mental illness. And at 17, because I didn't know what it was, because he was like, God will help you. God, Jesus is. I'm talking to Jesus, and we're like, dude, let's get the. But if I had learned early that, this is what you call a manic episode,
Right.
or bipolar, and it's really difficult and it's painful,
Yeah.
and had people come to class and talk about it, their experience, like I do now with,
yeah.
you could have understood, and I would have been a lot more compassionate to him.
It's, or you can call him crazy and try and move on and keep your distance,
Exactly.
and that's really,
That's kind of what we did.
well, exactly, because that's what we were never taught to do anything else really. And, and if you see something, if you're learning from, when I said that like 3 times, but about a year ago, Paloma and I were talking, and I'm like, really, we're kind of parenting Rome, my daughter, through Bowie in a way. Because she's looking up to him, she's following him, she's watching how he eats, she's watching how he reacts.
Right.
She's watching him, thinking like, oh, he wanted that, he went that way, he definitely didn't get what he wanted. I'm gonna try this, and she'll come over and like, hey, can I have that? And it's like, yeah, and then it's like anything like that. But you learn from the observation.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're not taught, or if you're not shown a different
But-
way, how are you supposed to kind of know that?
And it's still not improved. For somebody who doesn't have mental illness, I'm having more of a talk about mental illness with Jason than other people who are like going through all kinds of stuff. The pandemic was actually great for mental illness. Obviously terrible, but great. I mean, my book came
For
out
the
there-
awareness of it all, yeah.
And because you start going, and people were talking and everything, they're still talking. So in a way, that was good. I want to end this interview on, you have a wife and kids, and I can tell how lucky you are. Am I right?
Yeah.
How has it been to have a wife like a Paula and kids?
It's been incredible. If I think back, I'm incredibly lucky. I also have I feel like I've been able to kind of have moments to feel what I want to see, the way I want to see my life kind of go. And having kids was something that it was like really the only thing I knew that I really wanted to do at some point, was to have kids and have a family and everything. And when I met Paloma, it was very, very instant for me that I was like, I actually said, I was like, I could marry that girl, and I could see it. It took a while for that to happen, but it was very much You know, I had that feeling, and then the kids were the same way. And look, for me, I think maybe what you're talking about with mental illness, and again, I think there's a difference between your mental health and mental illness, right? And so we can all work on our own mental health.
Yes, of course.
For sure.
Of course.
And when I think about my life, I have had an incredible amount of support and love, and like I never saw my parents really argue at all. My dad would go for a walk, you know, and they'd be like, you know, I'd go for a walk. Yeah. Married, and I had my brother at 18, and then me. They had 4 boys by the time they were like 25 years old or whatever. And they had a massive family around them. And there was that support system I can understand, you know. I can understand when I think back on my life going through that kind of stuff. I had an incredible amount of support. And they pushed me. And, you know, when I left town for the first time, my mom, I called her and I said, hey, I'm moving to Italy. And she's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, Mom, I am. And she knew it was coming. It was just her instinct to say, no, you're not. My boy's not leaving me already. Right. You're not even 18 years old or whatever. And so there was that. And then my dad saying, you know, I'm living in LA, and it was hard for a long time. And, you know, 50 cents in the pocket just to make a phone call to try and get to the airport and borrow a buddy and get me there. And my dad's like, well, you know, you're not coming home. And I was like, yeah, you know, you're right. He believed in me enough to say, well, you're not coming home.
Damn.
You know, you gotta, you know, I trust you. Yeah. You got your support. You're gonna be here. And when I think about that, and I think about that kind of level of love that it takes for that kind of unselfishness and the dedication it takes to be a parent, there's nothing in the world more important to me than trying to be an inspiration to my kids as a father. Yeah. I'm their example. I'm not always right. There's many times where I feel like I need to kind of forgive myself for the shame that I feel at times of like, man, I did not handle that very well. That was terrible.
I have a lot of that.
Yeah. It's hard.
And you know, if you see anything that is not right there, you have to look at this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. And when I think about Paloma, she's got an ability, well, you know, she's somebody that's been through a lot in her life, and she did a lot of work on herself. I always say about her is that I'm the lucky one that was able to partner up with somebody that has done the work. Yeah. And that's incredible, man, you know, because when she brings something up, I trust her so implicitly that I know that it's like, oh, well, she's right, so let me take another look at this situation. Because the way I'm seeing it is probably very my way, narrow-minded and selfish, so let me try and see what's going on. And 110%, it's always there's a different view that I could be looking at in order to have a better balance with whatever the situation is. So, you know, having a wife and kids for me, it's hard to explain what it is if somebody doesn't have it, and I think maybe mental illness might be that I can try my best to understand it. Yes. You can try your best to understand what it's like to have a kid, but I don't think you'll ever really know what it's like unless you have that kind of, you know, that feeling, that love, I think.
I want to ask you something which is out of left field, because you haven't, you know, the mental illness and all that. My son, Joshua, and I know people are going to be like, well, it's his son, but this kid is music and acting, enough said. But he hasn't been through anything. Mm-hmm. You're this actor and haven't been through, you know, how's that happen? Because what do you tap into?
Oh, I tap into loss, pain, vulnerability. Yeah. Wow. The idea of it, and then I try and find my personal thing that can equate to the feeling that character might be going through. You know, we've talked much. I know we've talked about it, but when I went to acting class with Sharon Chatton, you know, she talked about when you have these memories, they should be at least 7 years old. They should have been at least from 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
because at least then it's ingrained in you. Yeah, and it's there. You can access it. You can find the path to it, and it's always going to be there if it's at least from 7 years ago.
I get you.
You
I
can
get you.
rely on it.
Yes.
And so I have very vivid memories and moments in my life that I can access like that because I've worked on it. I've sat in the chair and I've gone over and over these moments, so I know they still affect me. It can bubble up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he does the same.
And it's just like I feel like there's an empathy for moments that you can
Yes.
grab onto.
Yeah.
And it's just like release it,
Yeah.
let it go. And then you see where it goes.
I get you.
And then you see where it goes
Yeah.
through your song, through your lyric,
Yeah.
through your character,
Yeah.
through the scene, or just being there as a human being and tapping into a moment and just being like, "Whew, okay,
Right.
that's
right.
gonna percolate. Let's see how that percolates."
I'm going to end this on something that we shared together. Just because I think I need to bring it up. But maybe you can remind me of what happened the night. Was it that my best friend was murdered?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't quite recall. Did I find out that night, or did I?
No, I think it was the day before or something. It was I don't think it was the day
Okay.
of. And I really don't think that you planned on talking about it to
Right.
me. But I remember sitting there and we were talking about stuff because you always said, you got to let those things out when you're in the scene. You got to, and then we were talking about that kind of stuff, and then it just kind of happened. You were sitting there and you're quiet, and then you brought up your best friend that got murdered, and we was like this moment of just, it's almost like that was, that's life. It can be,
Yeah.
and then we were talking about all this stuff and about what it means and about what this friend was like for you, how much you guys went through.
Yeah.
How much you guys, you were always there for each other like a brotherhood, and yeah, it was I never, again, that's one of those times. I can go back to sitting at that
me
table
too. It's
like
a kazoo, man. Right
It's
over
kazoo,
here.
right? Sitting it right there. I can remember it's like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Donna. We both knew Donna.
Yeah, Donna was like a second mother to me there.
Yeah, man.
She was the first person to see the sonogram of Bowie because she always talked about me having kids. Because I was there for 10 years. And Paloma was pregnant as I was on my way out. And so it was like my second last day and we just got the sonogram. And I showed her and she broke into tears. And
Yeah, man.
she was a gem.
She was the best. And it's funny. I always say with death, each death gives you a gift. And I can't say what that gift is to you or to me but I know what Manny gave me. 3 hawks flying in the sky. And I know what Donna gave me strength. Because she was so strong. Get off that anxiety. That's nothing. Until she saw me in a room one time with really horrible anxiety, and she's like, "Oh no." I think it was the first time she opened her eyes to that. But lately, I've been wanting her to be at work, just because she helped me so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you knew you could go back to her
Yeah.
chair and just be like, not judged, not expected to
Yes.
perform, just to sit there.
All right, we're gonna end this because it's this has been just. I could talk to you forever, man. I really can. And
I miss you.
Yeah, not just because it's an interview thing, but it just we connect on this. On this, you know what it is you do for me. You make me smarter, and I like it. I mean, because everything just flows, and it's like, or maybe I'm feeling good today. But I swear to you, I never imagined that I would talk to Jason Thompson about mental illness more than I don't remember talking this much about it. It's amazing. It's amazing because if somebody's sitting there who's bipolar, we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
But sometimes even if somebody's they'll talk about other stuff and we'll go on a tangent. This was like, doom, doom, doom. So thank you for being so vulnerable, open, smart, and understanding, which is the beginning of overcoming mental illness is understanding it. That's the start, right? Because you gotta begin to, and I think you have that. You could be you actually could be a doctor, like a psychiatrist. But anyway,
yeah.
that's it, bro. What do you think? You had fun?
Yeah, man.
This was like a nice.
I don't need to go anywhere. I could sit right here for a while. Yeah. No,
There's
it's good.
nothing else that needs to be said.